Welcome to AAPI Voice, a program that promotes Asian American Pacific Islanders' engagement and participation. My name is Lisa Gray, and I'm with my co-host, Grace Lee.
We are very happy to have this opportunity to have the team from Global Detroit with us today. Global Detroit was established in year 2010 with a vision of building an inclusive and prosperous Southeast Michigan. Since its inception, it has done a tremendous job helping the community. We are very glad to have this opportunity to introduce them to you. To begin our program today, Steve and Rachel, can you introduce yourselves and your responsibilities at Global Detroit?
My name is Steve Tabachman. I'm the Executive Director and founder of Global Detroit.
Hi, my name is Rachel Wang. I am the Program Manager for International Talent and Entrepreneurship at Global Detroit. My job at Global Detroit is to connect international students and international talent to employment opportunities and resources in Southeast Michigan and gain support and involvement from local universities, employers, and entrepreneurship development resource organizations. Thank you.
Steve, you are the founder and visionary of Global Detroit. Can you share with us your organization's history and mission?
Global Detroit is a regional economic and community development organization. We have a focus on immigrants and global talent. We develop and implement inclusive strategies that drive the growth, revitalization, and broadly shared prosperity of Detroit and Southeast Michigan. Our work in global talent retention, entrepreneurship, opportunity neighborhoods, inclusive institutions, and research helps to build inclusive economies and vibrant communities. We started in 2009. It was really the vision of the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce and the philanthropic community through a collaborative known as the New Economy Initiative for Southeast Michigan. And if you remember, in 2009, our region was really suffering economically. Not only did we have sort of the global recession precipitated by the mortgage crisis and the failing of the big banks, but we had suffered here for a decade of decline in the auto industry. During that decade, coming out of it, we saw the largest municipal bankruptcy in America when Detroit had to declare bankruptcy. The big three, a couple of them went bankrupt. And so we were in some dire straits at that time. And the economic and regional leadership for Southeast Michigan, for the Detroit metro area, came together and started thinking through innovative strategies that could help our region. They started to think through innovative strategies that could help our region be a prosperous one, that could have job creation, good paying jobs, and could have a future as bright in the 21st century as we had in the 20th century. And so they asked the question, how do immigrants, how do global talent, and how does global investment impact our economy? And what we found here in Detroit is true throughout America's industrial Midwest and Northeast, in cities like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, Cleveland, Toledo, and St. Louis. Immigrants and global talent really are a nice match, a perfect fit for the economic realities within our communities. We are rapidly aging populations, and we have talent needs, both for highly skilled, highly educated engineers, computer scientists, and other STEM positions, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We need innovative entrepreneurs. We need to diversify our culture and global connections, but we also need young workers who can fill service industry jobs, manufacturing jobs, and other things. And that is what the global community has been bringing to our state and to our region. This is the only state, Michigan, to lose population in our last census, 2010. We certainly expect to grow population in this current census, but without any immigration, Michigan would be continuing to lose population. And so it's really important to our economy and our workforce, but also to being a prosperous region in the 21st century to have global connections and global talent.
That's wonderful. What is the operational structures of Global Detroit, and what is the current staffing of Global Detroit? And one more question. What are the funding resources to support your operation?
So we are a nonprofit corporation that is tax exempt under Section 501c3 of the federal government tax code. So anybody who gives us, businesses or individuals who give us money, those are tax deductible donations. We have about the equivalent of 12 full-time staff in the organization right now, and a number of partner organizations that we help resource, including our friends at the University of Michigan and really a bunch of partner organizations that I'm sure we'll talk about during today's interview. Our budget is roughly about $2 million per year, and about anywhere from 30 to 60% of that, so usually around 40%, comes from foundations, from philanthropy. About another 40% of our budget is what we call fee-for-service earned revenues. So we are paid as a national technical assistance advisor to organizations like Welcoming America, and we coach other communities. Like this past year, we coached Louisville and Pittsburgh and the Champaign-Urbana region around the University of Illinois, and we coach them on how to do inclusive economic development. We say inclusion to mean inclusion of immigrants and global talent. We also get paid by local companies that want to see stronger neighborhoods in Detroit. So we do a lot of work with the DTE Energy Company that has energy efficiency programs for low-income people. And we help connect immigrant households, low-income immigrant households, to those opportunities. Collectively, we make about 40% of our revenue through earned income. The rest is made up through friends like yourselves and through people like Guicho and I, and as well, so individual donations and corporate supporters. We're proud that we typically in a given year will have about 200 individuals that will support us, and upwards of 30 to 40 companies that will provide us support. We do an annual event, we do online fundraisers, and we're just really grateful for a lot of people who share our passion about how the immigrant and global community can make our region a more prosperous place.
Can you tell us how Global Detroit helps international founders to launch startups and create jobs in Southeast Michigan?
So a couple years ago, we became about the 12th or 13th place in America to pioneer a really exciting program we call Global Entrepreneurs in Residence, or Global EIR for short. And this is a program that helps international founders who want to pursue the American dream or bring their startup company here to US soil. Our founders can be international students who launch a company through the research that they do while at the university. They can be people who maybe are working after attending college or university here, and maybe they're in the tech field and then they come up with their own idea to launch. And they can even be, we currently have a Swiss founder who's likely to move here. We're working through the visa process. The way we are able to support these entrepreneurs is by connecting them with opportunities at universities, which are uncapped to the H-1B skilled worker visa. So they work part-time, usually 10 to 20 hours a week at the university. And we found partners at the University of Michigan, at the Economic Growth Institute, and at Wayne State University in the Office of Business Innovation. Both of those offices offer services to help students and local startup companies connect and thrive. And so the Global EIR folks will spend 10 to 20 hours a week at the university, helping the educational mission of the university by coaching startup companies and connecting students to them. The rest of the time, they're able to launch their own companies and work on their own companies. And we provide additional supports to help those companies, introduce them to funders, and have people who will help them figure out their market and get market research. We're really proud. The first entrepreneurs started about 18 months ago. And by the end of the March of 2021, we will have had 7 companies come through the program, a total of 8 founders. And our first 2 companies will have exited. The 2 companies that have exited, one is an online learning company, and the other is a very innovative approach to logistics and software and moving secured goods. They collectively raised $7 million in the short year that they were in the program, and will be accounting for as many as 24 new jobs here in the state of Michigan. We look at Massachusetts, which is a few years ahead of us in implementing this model. And in Massachusetts, they have supported 65 companies in the first 5 years, raised close to $750 million, and created over 900 jobs. So we believe that by reaching out to international founders and startups, we can really make them a part of our startup ecosystem. We can give Michigan a competitive advantage in landing these talented founders, and that we can be a creator of high-paying jobs that will be the industries of tomorrow.
As you mentioned earlier, that one of your key programs is the talent retention. Michigan has lost a lot of the younger generation workforce over the past decade. How is your program helping to retain the younger generation in Michigan, especially for foreign students?
So as you mentioned, Grace, Michigan is not seen as the top destination for university graduates. Over 60% of U of M graduates end up actually leaving the region and working in other major cities across the country. At the same time, Michigan actually faced a very critical shortage for STEM talent. According to a research conducted by Deloitte in 2018, in 2022, over 2 million jobs in manufacturing would be unfilled due to lack of qualified candidates and the retirement of the baby boomer generation. International students accounts for 80% of the graduate level STEM talent in the United States. And at least half of those students or population are eager to stay and work in the States after the graduation. So international talent can be a very significant part of the skilled US workforce in the future. So international students can actually apply for something called OPT. The full name is Optional Practical Training to work in the US doing jobs related to the major they studied for up to 12 months. And for STEM majors, they can actually extend this OPT status for an additional 2 years. And from the employer's perspective, there's no money or extra paperwork is needed. And after the OPT ends, employers can apply for H-1B visa to allow the students to continue work for them. So Michigan has the 9th largest international student population in the country. And at Global Detroit, through our Global Talent Retention Initiative, when it was launched in the year 2012, it was actually first of its kind in the nation. We helped Southeast Michigan companies to retain top-notch STEM talent and to prepare international students from Michigan universities for US job market. So what we do is we work with our university partners to offer soft skill workshops and organize job fairs and other career building activities and services to international students. And at the same time, we also provide training, seminars, resources to employers on immigrant regulations, rules, hiring practices, and other topics. So from the year 2012 to 2019, our GTRI project, through our GTRI project, we have helped to connect over 4,000 international students with more than 100 local employers.
A key message on your website is that Southeast Michigan prospers when Detroit neighborhoods are strong. How is Global Detroit helping Detroit's neighborhoods improve and thrive?
Thank you for the question and for noticing on the website the importance role that immigrants play in Michigan's neighborhoods, and in particular in the city of Detroit and some of the disinvested communities that have resulted over the last 50 years as we've seen suburbanization and white flight from our central city. We get this question a lot. People want to know, how do immigrants impact neighborhoods, and what does it mean for long-term residents and African-American residents to have new immigrant communities in their neighborhood. We are just completing 2 years of research funded by the Hudson Weber Foundation and supported by Data Driven Detroit and a national researcher named Alan Malik that asked this very question. What is the impact that rapid immigration has had on neighborhoods? And we looked at the Bonglatown neighborhood, which is a neighborhood that straddles Detroit and Hamtramck that has lots of Yemeni, Bangladeshi, and even some Eastern European immigrants, as well as another neighborhood called Chadzi Condon, which has a number of Latinx Central American immigrants in addition to Yemeni immigrants. What we found is that by numerous metrics, the quality of life in these two neighborhoods had improved, and it had improved more rapidly than other similar neighborhoods in the city of Detroit. We know this by looking at vacancy rates, by looking at blight, by looking at crime activity, by looking at retail activity and the opening of new stores that many immigrant business owners have helped to launch, and a number of other metrics. What is also important to notice is that we surveyed residents randomly and scientifically in these neighborhoods. And even long-term African-American residents report more satisfaction with their neighborhood and a belief that their neighborhood has been getting better compared to similar neighborhoods in the city of Detroit. All of the residents, including African-Americans, do see newcomers as having contributed to the improving quality of life, although it is noteworthy that there are some differences between African-Americans and other residents in terms of how they perceive the new immigrants. Sometimes they don't feel that they're being served by the retail stores that are being opened. And so those are issues that we work on. So the question really for Global Detroit has been, this study sort of proves that our idea and our thesis statement is true and that we benefit by encouraging immigration into our city. In fact, American cities like Detroit have suffered huge population loss. We know in Detroit, we peaked at a population of about 1.8 million and are now down to close to 650,000, almost 35% of our original population. Between 1960 and 1980, 30 of the 50 largest cities in America, or 60% of our largest cities, lost population in America. And about half of those have rebounded and started to see population growth. In every single one of those large cities that saw population growth, immigrants have been the main driver of the growth, if not the only driver of the growth. And Detroit is no different. So we're continuing to lose population, but we are seeing growing numbers of immigrant numbers. So how do we encourage this? And most importantly, how do we help immigrants integrate into the economy and into their neighborhoods? And how do we do it in a way that has the contributions and benefits that immigrants bring accrue to the long-term African-American neighborhoods and residents in those communities so that they benefit as well. So that's work that Global Detroit has been doing for years. We look at how can we make sure that immigrants have access to housing opportunities, workforce development, that we support small businesses. And this is not about putting immigrants ahead of the line for services that African-Americans or others would get. It's about how do we create access for everybody. And so many of the neighborhoods, as we've worked, we've been able to bring new resources to African-American residents, bring new business programs and small business loans and grants, bring new housing grants to fix up housing of older residents who might live on a fixed income. And we see this as it's very important to do this, these efforts as a way that it's a win-win for long-term residents and newcomers. And we look forward in the coming years to work on what we call social cohesion. We see social cohesion as being very important to bring immigrants together with longstanding Michiganders. We do this through a program called Welcoming Michigan that we launched out of our original study that has been recognized by the Obama White House for a Champion for Change Award for immigrant integration. And it's a program that brings new Michiganders with longtime residents to structure them in conversations, to work together, to get to enjoy each other's cooking and culture. And we do this as an economic development organization because we know that the social cohesion and being a welcome place is critical to our bottom line and to our economic prosperity.
Well, Global Detroit works with corporations, nonprofit organizations, government agencies, and public institutions to develop work environments and outreach strategies and programs that intentionally and meaningfully include immigrants and global talent. How do you work with these organizations to build an inclusive organizations?
Well, thanks for that question, Grace. We really believe that inclusive organizations are a path to prosperity for the region, and that is underlying everything we do. We have developed over the last 10 years an entire theory of change of how we can work with organizations. And these are not organizations designed solely to serve immigrants. These are private sector businesses, employers, community colleges and universities, local government, any kind of agency, we believe can probably best advance their goals through more inclusion. So our theory of change starts with profound listening. We listen to our partners and we ask them, what are your goals? What are your aspirations? What are the things that you hope to accomplish? And what are the challenges you face? And what are the assets that you have? What are your strengths? Once we understand that, what they're hoping to get done and what their challenges are, we get into a research mode. And for us, research has two components. First is the data. We'd like them to understand who the global community is in Southeast Michigan. Who are the immigrants? And some of that data is about the fact that we have 450,000 foreign-born people living in metropolitan Detroit, and that the state of Michigan has 700,000 foreign-born people. It is the only source of population growth that we've seen over time in the last 20 years in the state of Michigan. Most folks don't realize that the adult immigrant population coming to Michigan in the last 10 years are highly educated. In fact, over 50% possess a 4-year college degree, which is almost twice as educated as the overall population in the state of Michigan. They're also highly educated in some of the really critical fields, as Guicho mentioned, in engineering and computer science and IT, in doctors and healthcare. And so once we understand this data, then we talk about best practices. And Global Detroit plays a unique role working with Welcoming America and other national organizations like the Partnership for a New American Economy to track best practices on inclusion. So we did this last week with one of our community colleges. They're interested in growing their enrollment, growing their graduation rates, and they exist in a community that has a number of Middle Eastern and Asian and Latinx immigrants in the community. And we talk through what are the population numbers, what are the best practices that exist, and how could the college perhaps combine what they're already doing to do outreach to get more students and to help students along in the process and graduate, and implement those in ways that serve global talent as well. It'll produce a better outcome for the immigrants and global talent communities we serve, but it also produces outcomes that the college that we're working with really cares about and helps them get to their goal. And this is the way that we think we can better leverage the contributions that the global talent and immigrant communities bring to our state and region, and that will create more prosperity for all of us.
Thanks, Steve. Your programs sound amazing. As we mentioned earlier, Global Detroit has impacted Southeast Michigan significantly. Can you share with us some of the milestones of Global Detroit in the past 10 years?
We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and so many things have happened. Our state and Detroit in particular are now recognized as a national leader in this work to be immigrant inclusive in our economic development strategies. Just this past year, the New American Economy, which is a national organization created by former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg, who also is of Bloomberg News and the Bloomberg technologies that created the stock market machines, and so he's a multi-billionaire. He has created an organization for CEOs and mayors who want to see more common sense immigration reform. They have developed a ranking system to rank this 100 largest cities in America on their immigrant inclusion practices. And Detroit ranked number 7th this past year, tied with San Francisco. It's the second time in the 3 years they've done this that we have landed a top 10 ranking. And it's a reflection of all the things that we've been able to accomplish. You know, Guicho mentioned that we launched the nation's first international student retention initiative, the Global Talent Retention Initiative. We talked a little bit earlier about our work with the Global Entrepreneurs and Residents, or Global EIR program. We have worked to create programs that support neighborhood scale businesses at Prosperous Detroit, and work that Global Detroit has done. So we helped create Prosperous Detroit to serve neighborhood scale businesses, and worked with the Any Ideas grant to help small business owners and neighborhoods get grants and loans. We worked with local government, and we have helped create a Detroit Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, as well as supported efforts at the Detroit City Council Immigration Task Force. There are now dedicated initiatives in Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, and Washtenaw counties on this. The Office of Global Michigan is something that grew up in the last 10 years. And just last year, Grand Rapids issued its Welcome County Plan. We're very proud of the numbers that we've achieved. I think Guicho mentioned that we've connected with over 4,000 international students in the last 10 years. We've worked with over 100 companies. We have just in 2019 alone, just in the year before the pandemic alone, we were able to help 2,000 families get information that stopped them from going into foreclosure. We helped over 150 families get energy efficiency improvement into their homes. And as I mentioned, at the Global EIR, we have now had 2 companies exit that have raised combined $7 million in investment capital, and they'll be creating 24 jobs in the coming year. So there's a lot of milestones that we've reached. Almost too many to count. And the reason so is because you've heard a lot of the work that we do is in partnership. So it's not just us alone that achieve these milestones. It's really our community. It's really Southeast Michigan, and it's really the state of Michigan. We may not have the nation's biggest immigrant community, but I think that we are one state where many of the mainstream leaders, the chambers of commerce, the state government, local government, and many of our corporate leaders and nonprofit leaders have raised their hand and said, we welcome immigrants, and we believe that a more inclusive future is a pathway to prosperity, and it will create vibrant communities for us in Michigan in the 21st century.
The pandemic has hit Detroit very hard for small business and its residents. So what has Global Detroit done during this period to help the small business and the residents?
We've made what we call a pivot to jump into that work. So our work was thinking about how we help small businesses expand and how we help neighborhoods get home ownership and do the proactive things that help people achieve the American dream. And what we found was that there was just critical information out there going back to last spring that was not getting through to Michiganders across the state, but it was particularly not getting through to some of our immigrant communities that may speak a different language or may have different cultural experiences. As you know, many countries, you do not look to the government to support your business. That is a uniquely sort of American and Western democracy notion that the government is designed to help a private business. In fact, in many areas of Latin America, the government, people avoid the government as much as possible to avoid taxes and regulation and those kinds of things. And so what we did is we created a website at globaldetroitmi.org, and on our website you can find lots of information about COVID, most of it translated into Arabic, Bangla, and Spanish, the common languages we see in Detroit neighborhoods. Some of the information for skilled immigrants in Chinese, thanks to Guicho and others. And we disseminated this information. We did webinars. We partnered with the state Occupation Safety Healthy Administration, MIOSHA, to help business owners understand what they needed to do to open safely. We worked with the Michigan Secretary of State and others during the election to help people understand the new rules that govern the election in Michigan and how COVID impacted that. And so we continue to do that work. And we are also redesigning our programs to fit what is important with COVID. And so we're looking more at the digital divide and how many low-income immigrant families may not have internet access. We're looking into how the internet is used. In Banglatown, we're using WhatsApp to communicate with business owners, which is a social media platform that is not used by other business owners. And we are looking forward to, as I think the president now says, build back better. How do we have a recovery that everyone in Michigan can be a part of? And how do we make sure that as we build back better, that our global talent and immigrant communities are included in those strategies and are really an accelerant to the kind of growth, job creation, and prosperity that we want to see here in Michigan.
Global Detroit has done so much for the community. With the new administration in Washington, D.C., what major impacts will this have on immigration, diversity, and inclusion? How would it impact Global Detroit's programs and priorities?
Great question. First of all, just tone. Our prior president said a lot of different things, in fact, campaigned on a lot of messages that were the opposite of welcoming. And we believe that our community, we believe this 10 years ago, we were founded on the notion that by being welcoming, by being inclusive, by encouraging immigration, that Michigan's long-term residents would have greater prosperity. There would be more jobs for them. That immigration is not a zero-sum game. Immigration is actually an economic development policy. And you can see from day one that a Biden-Harris administration and the new president is encouraging of our global relationships. We're rejoining the World Health Organization. We're getting rid of a travel ban, looking at people with a particular religion or from certain countries. We're opening our doors, as America always has, to refugees from across the world and honoring the legacy of the Statue of Liberty that has made this country such a leader in the global community. Immediately, we know that in the first day with the 17 executive orders, a number of the humanitarian issues that are first and foremost, like separating children from their families, these were critical issues that needed to be addressed, and we're glad to see the president do this. In the long term, we're very hopeful that comprehensive immigration reform, a bill that this president introduced in the first week, that would create opportunities for those who don't have documented status to become US citizens, but also that would encourage all kinds of immigration, including helping international students and highly skilled to come here. We hope that as that plan works its way through the US Congress, there will be provisions for international founders like our global EIR founders, as well as skilled immigrants, as well as some of the backlogs that we see for certain countries like Indian Americans who have often had to wait 17 years to have a green card application process because of the country limits that we have. But one underlying notion that doesn't get a lot of attention that is very important to Global Detroit is this idea of integration. We're excited about provisions in the comprehensive immigration reform to create an office for new Americans in the White House. This is an idea that was birthed during the Obama administration. It was on the Biden-Harris campaign website, and whether or not it happens through legislation or the president just creates it, this would be a great benefit to the work that Global Detroit does. We don't have a national integration policy in America, unlike Western democracies that we've seen in Australia and Western Europe. And we think that having a White House level person to focus on English as a second language classes, on the education system, on the health systems, on the workforce and small business systems is really critical to our economic prosperity. So that is an issue that we will be tracking during this administration.
Thank you so much, Steve and Rachel, for taking your time to be on our show. Grace and I really appreciate. For everyone watching, thank you very much for joining us. Please subscribe to our channel and see you next episode.